Episode 21 with Creative Love Radio. We have a great episode today about the fear of failure, or maybe you have the fear of success in love and life. Tune in to find out. Welcome to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. We are redefining relationships to guide you to greater love, more success, and living your purpose through the latest research in neuroscience, Jungian psychology, and Eastern wisdom. Get ready for another inspirational episode of Creative Love Radio. Episode 21, Facing the Fear of Failure. My name is Debbie Maldonado, and I'm here with Dr. Rob Maldonado. And we usually talk about love in our podcast, but today we're going to talk about success because a lot of our clients are women, entrepreneurs, they're business owners, or they are in the corporate world. And we notice that there's a lot of parallels between success in business and success in love. So we're going to talk about success in a business sense today, but I want you to keep your little ears peeled for how this relates to your love life.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of overlap and also some mirroring, meaning you get the opposite effect in relationships. So let's start with this idea. This goes back to 1978, back in the ancient days.
That was before I was born.
That was before the internet. Can you imagine that? There was no internet. It was called the Imposter Syndrome.
Ooh.
And it was one of those self-help books that was popular at that time. But the research has actually, it started out with, they were looking at women. Because
of course.
Women at that time were beginning to enter the workforce in large numbers. And people were wondering, what's going on in their heads? Is there something strange happening? Or
these corporate ladies, what are they thinking? They must feel awkward being among all these men. And it's a kind of a new phenomenon. I can't believe that was not that long ago.
Not that long ago, yeah. So this researcher came up with this idea of the imposter syndrome, meaning that if you were in a group of successful people, you felt out of place. You felt like, I don't belong here, right? There's been a mistake. And at any moment now, they're going to come in and say, what are you doing here?
You're going to get fired. They're going to catch you.
Right. But later on, they did research with men as well, and they found out the same thing was happening with men.
I know. I think that we all think that we are our only... we're the only ones who have negative or insecurities, with negative thoughts, that no one else thinks as bad of ourselves as we do. But this research shows that it's very common for us to feel these ideas. And we're going to talk a little bit too about the ego and why we have this imposter syndrome and how we can, with our work, move beyond it.
Yeah. So even successful people like Mike Myers, there's a funny quote by him saying, "At any time, I still expect that the no talent police will come and arrest me." And he's, one of the most successful comedians and done a bunch of movies and stuff.
And it doesn't matter how much success you have. The outward success will not change this feeling. It has to be an internal shift.
Absolutely.
And so before we begin with the ideas around imposter syndrome, the reason why we have it is because we have an ego that we developed, and our self-identity is conditioned around who we were raised to be, the family we were around, the education level we were at, the people what they told us who we are, like we were the popular kid in high school and all our achievements in life. And then we tend to self-identify with that as us. And so anything outside of that is the imposter. This other person, and so this idea of us that we don't really relate to, almost like our shadow, right?
Yeah. So here are some questions from a book called "Success: The Psychology of Achievement." Now, this is not a book we recommend. It's very basic and it's just got some fun facts kind of stuff, but it's got some interesting questions about the imposter syndrome. So it says, if you recognize any of these questions. Think about you.
Cosmo quiz.
Yeah, feeling like you're an imposter.
Okay, I'm ready.
So the number one,
test.
think about yes or no.
Okay.
I admire people who have achieved what I aspire to, but I don't think I belong in their ranks, meaning at their level. Yes or no?
Yes, I feel that a lot of, no matter how high how much success we have, I always see people that there's always going to be someone more successful, and I always feel like they have something,
the secret.
More than me. They have something, a secret that they know.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, number 2, I feel like a lot of my successes were a matter of luck. Now, that question has to do with attribution. Do we attribute our successes to our own skills and talent, or do we say it was a fluke? It was just luck. Mm-hmm. What is it? What do you think most of the time?
Me personally, I don't think it's luck anymore, but I used to think it was luck that every interview I went on, when I wanted to change jobs, I got the job. And I just thought but I never went for the big jobs. I always went for the jobs I knew I can get. So
right.
You stay in that kind of.
Yeah. So remember, these would be people that are highly successful, but they still feel kind of like that, that I feel I got this promotion just out of luck, not really out of my capacity. Mm-hmm. The number 3, I feel foolish or uncomfortable describing my achievements. Now that's me right there. I don't talk about my training a lot of times, and you're always telling me, talk about your PhD, talk about your
education
clinical,
and your experience,
and that's part of the way we were raised, the way we grow up, our culture, all those elements play into creating this syndrome. Number 4, when I'm around other people in my field, I tend to feel they deserve their place in it more than I do. That's definitely, I think a lot of us feel that way. We were talking about the Inc., the dinner we went to, and we were invited to a dinner in New York City with all these billionaires with Inc. magazine. I was a speaker at the Women's Summit, and I said, Rob, let's go to this dinner. And you were like, I don't know if I feel like socializing. I'm like, come on, let's go. It'll be fun. And you were glad we went because it was just really weird. It was a small group of 20 people, and the probably billions of dollars of revenue in that one room. And that we were a part of that. And I think both of us kind of felt like, wow, I can't believe we're in this room, where these other women probably thought, well, I'm in this room all the time. And so when we step out and we're going to the next level, sometimes we do feel that way, that do we belong here? Is this who we, Or most people were thinking what we were thinking.
They were like, wow, Debbie and Rob, they're like so wise. They've achieved so much. And why am I not here? And we don't know what they're thinking, right?
That's right. So number 5, I worry that people will realize how little I know. In other words, I'll be discovered.
Yes. I see a lot of times people that start a business, or especially coaches. I mean, I've been around the coaching industry for about 15 years, and just watching people start out. And one of the biggest questions a lot of the coaches I've worked with along the years, not only, people that do our work, but any coach says, oh, I don't know if I know enough, or they're going to find me out. And even people that are making like 6 or 7 figures still feel like someone's going to find them out, that they really don't know, or they don't have enough content. They don't have enough wisdom. And who am I to teach this? And so that's huge.
Number 6, when people praise me, I feel like I'm getting away with something.
Ooh. I really trick them, right?
Yeah, and in general, people feel uncomfortable, right, when they're praised. That, I'm getting away with something, or they're giving me more credit than I deserve. That kind of idea. I can't believe that my successes will last.
Yes.
Yeah, we often are waiting for the shoe to drop because we don't have that total confidence and faith in ourselves.
And so this imposter syndrome really is why we have that fear of failure, is because we do feel like imposters, and then we feel that people are going to find us out. So this imposter syndrome does hold almost all of us back from really shining because of that, because that idea, right, that the no talent police is going to come find us. Someday they're going to call us and say, who do you think you are? Now let's break this down a little more, is that who are we? Right? Yeah. How do we define ourselves, our self-identity? Think about how you define yourself. Am I my accomplishments? Am I who I am because I've made a certain amount of money, or because I have initials after my name, a PhD, master's degree? Do I have, 3 masters? Have I studied at this university? Have I achieved this much income? Do I live in this neighborhood? Am I of this, club or group? What awards have I won? A lot of, in Hollywood, it's like, have you won an Emmy? Have you won a Oscar? You're in are you in the A list or the B list? And so our whole culture is driven by that. But if we identify with those external successes, we're also going to identify with any external failure. So it comes with a price. So you have that kind of dualistic mind of the ego saying, I want this, but I don't want that. So we're kind of stuck in the middle, because we're afraid of really reaching for success, because then we're going to the opposite of it. We're terrified of. So it's better to just not make any decision and stay and just play it safe.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you described is essentially what Jung calls the persona. Mm-hmm. And he theorized the persona as a mask, very much like an actor wearing a mask or playing a role. And he said that we are not that role. We are not that mask. We are not the persona.
Who are we, Rob?
Well,
tell us.
Most of us believe that we are the persona.
Yeah.
Right.
The body and the physical sense and our memories and our past history.
Absolutely. And our personality, right? Like that's what distinguishes me, my personality, the traits that go with my personality, whether I'm outgoing, ingoing, intelligent.
Introvert, extrovert.
Yeah, all that stuff. And
funny.
Yeah. And our ego, which is that little voice that is narrating my life and telling me what's going on and who's that and what's going on
and this is what they're thinking and this is what they're thinking. Yeah.
Right. So most people believe they are this persona, and so they're always going to feel like an imposter because it is an imposter.
It's the ultimate imposter. It's this person taking credit for, or this identity taking credit for everything you've achieved. And everything you didn't achieve, and blaming you for everything you didn't achieve. And the only person to really take credit for it is the divine in you. That's the source of the deeper self, is really responsible for everything.
Yeah. When we did an assessment of what was out there relative to what work we wanted to do in coaching and in speaking, what we saw was that a lot of people were simply trying to polish up the persona.
Yes.
Right? They were saying, think positive, do these behaviors, change these behaviors so that you can look good and polish up that mask.
And use the self-talk. I mean, a lot of the positive psychology, that the tips they would give for this imposter syndrome is, do something, try something and fail and tell yourself it's okay, and that think positive and then identifying your limiting beliefs. There's a lot of that, like I'm not good enough and all those things that really are about the persona again, about really who am I and as this little person versus I'm this potential, this pure potential. That's how we were born. And we were conditioned into this ego persona. And then again, like you said, it is the imposter. It's the representative that we bring everywhere we go. And we think, and we get lost in it. And then we try to build it up and impress people with it. And then we're afraid that someone's really going to find us out. In essence, it's the truth that we aren't all those things.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with the persona. We need a persona to interface and interact with the world. The mistake is identifying with it, believing that that's all there is to us. And that's where the anxiety comes from. Anxiety, depression, all those things that people kind of hit the wall with when they've done success, they've achieved success, they've gotten what they wanted, but they're not satisfied. It's because of that, because they're thinking, if I look like I'm successful, then I'm successful. But that's simply the appearance. That's simply buying your own trick of creating a persona and believing that's who you are. So
then it's also temporary a lot of times, the ups and downs of business. And I remember when a person who was really, really a successful person said, don't let your net worth drive your self-worth. And that's that imposter syndrome too, right? We think that's what makes us successful. And that's why we get tripped up, because our ego can't identify with that at all anyway. So it's actually a gift that we kind of question that to begin with. So how do we move beyond that? How do we start really accessing that true self?
Yeah. Well, first of all, is to realize that that's not who we are, right? Because that identification, that attachment that we have to the persona or to our ego mind is very powerful. And to undergo the process of what Jung call individuation, meaning becoming who you really are, your deeper, higher self, that's the process that you have to undergo to undo that over-identification with a persona.
And one of the first steps is to understand projection, and that your ego will project in your mind your identity, and that little voice that narrates the world is going to color the way you think other people think of you, and it's going to project that that person can see right through me, or that person is questioning me. One of the biggest fears I think people have, especially in business, is public speaking. And so when you go up in front, what do you say? You were saying a joke at our last event that you're picturing everyone naked, which I thought was highly inappropriate for Rob telling a group of women that he's picturing them naked, but that's okay. It was funny. They all laughed. But we do feel that being on stage or having someone hear us, that who am I? And we think people are thinking the worst of us when they're sitting there looking at us speaking. And what's actually happening is that as an audience member, you're actually rooting for the speaker. So you see those TED speakers, you want them to succeed. You want them to inspire you. You want them to entertain you. And so that's really the opposite of what we think, but our mind projects our worst fears onto the world and thinks that everyone is thinking what we're thinking.
Yeah. And it's quite an illusion. The mind is incredible at projecting. And if you believe that's what's going on, that's what you perceive, essentially. That's what you experience. So you have to learn what is really happening when I identify with this persona. And I think that other people are judging me based on that appearance alone. And it's the illusion, basically, that you can read other people's minds. and they can read yours. And they can see through you or something like that. But if you ask people, like you say, most of the time they're rooting for the speaker. They want you to succeed. They want the speaker to succeed. So one of the things to also remember is that you shouldn't compare yourself to other people who have had success like you and think they are some sort of like powerful, like omniscient being that doesn't have any negative thoughts, and that they have figured everything out and you haven't. Like, we tend to over exaggerate how successful people think. And we think, well, I'm thinking these negative thoughts, so those successful people, they're successful, so they must not have them. So I don't fit in that group. And to realize that everyone has that ego mind. Everyone has that mind. And when we're successful,
it doesn't mean that goes away. So when you're looking at someone's success, you're making all these assumptions about how good their life is. You're making assumptions of how terrible they think of you and how good their life is. And we all are just so much alike, then we're different. And we're all basically scared of each other most of the time, of what other people think. And so we have to give ourselves a break.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's this thinking is very prevalent in people with this feeling of being an imposter. Also, is that they think, everybody's happy except me. Mm-hmm. Right? All the people around me somehow have it together except me, and that's totally false. Of course, what we are perceiving when we feel that way is we're looking at these snapshots of people, and we're thinking, look, but it looks so perfect. They got the car, and they got the relationship, and they got the job, and
it looks so easy.
Yeah, and they must be really happy, and I'm alone, and I don't feel successful, and all that.
It's funny, Rob. I remember people telling me all the time when I would do some coaching with people who have businesses. They said, "You make it look so easy," and I'm like, "Wow, I'm a magician." But we all think it's easier for everyone else, and that no one else struggles. And I've been around a lot of different people and various levels of success, and they all have doubts, and they all have doubts of themselves. It's a normal thing. The thing, though, with the fear of success is, how do we stop it from stopping us? How do we stop the fear of success from keeping us from success? And one of the ways is that idea of, are you playing to win or are you playing not to lose?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you. I didn't think of it. I wish I did. But most of the time we're playing not to lose. We're playing to protect that little persona and that ego, and we don't want people to think we're an imposter, and we don't feel like we deserve it. So let's keep it safe, and let's, not take a lot of risks.
And it's a subtle difference, playing to win rather than playing not to lose. Playing not to lose means you're afraid of failure, and you don't want to appear a fool. You don't want to make mistakes, and so you're overly cautious. Playing to win means you understand that's part of the game, is to make errors, and it's not going to stop you. You're just going to do what you need to do because you have a vision and you're going to go for it. And that works in business and relationships.
Yes.
Because it's how we create our lives, really.
But most people in the world are playing not to lose. The ego is designed to play not to lose. The ego is not designed to play to win. And so if we think that only maybe 1% of the planet is self-actualized, we're really swimming in a bunch of people trying to impress everyone else, and no one really cares about anyone else but themselves impressing other people. And we're kind of caught up in this cycle, in this box. And there's so much more to live. And I think one of the greatest freedoms, and I think that's the beauty of the shadow work that we do, is that you really get to really truly have a direct experience. This isn't just like thinking positive, but you have a direct experience of not giving a damn about what people think. And you go, oh,
frankly,
my God.
My dear.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. But it's really, you start to see how limited your life has been because you're so worried that you're going to look like a fool, and so worried everyone's going to look at how you failed, that you end up really never even succeeding. And I remember there's another quote I saw that said, no matter how many, even if you failed 1,000 times, you're more of a success than someone who never even tried.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love the idea of when we went to the Outer Banks and we saw the Wright brothers. They had their first flight there, and you go there and there's monuments there. It's a beautiful new monument they put out in 2012, which was the 100th year anniversary of the first flight. So only 100 years, but they went over 400 test flights, and each time they learned something new and they perfected it. They ran out of money 1 million times. They had to make fools of themselves. They ran a bike shop, and they, asked for money. And then you see all their letters saying, I know this is a crazy idea to make man fly, but we believe in it. And it really is very inspirational, because how many times have we tried to go out and find love or go out and try to start a business? And did we try 400 times? I don't think we did. And
I don't think we tried 4 times.
And that's the thing. We don't have to, try so many times. Most of the time, it's really a couple little slip ups and failures, and we keep going that makes us a success. And I think the biggest kept secret in success is facing failure. Because if we don't know how to face failure, we'll never, ever taste the sweetness of succeeding.
Absolutely. Well, and I like what you said. The bottom line is really that when we identify with a persona ego, that ego is designed to not fail. That is, it's in the game to not lose. And when we act from that higher self, from the higher purpose, that is acting to win. That is, we're in the game to win, not only to avoid failure and out of fear. So it's a subtle distinction, but a very potent one, and it makes clear the way our ego mind works compared to our higher self.
And I like the idea when I was first listening to my little success tapes. When I first started my hypnotherapy practice, I made little tapes where I'm abundant and I have success. And one of the sentences I always remember is that I'm bigger than any problem that arises. I'm the divine self. I am not little Debbie. If you face problems as little Debbie or little Jane or little Jody or little Paul or little Peter, you're going to be. Why are you laughing? That these little problems will just stop you in your tracks. But if you are coming from the divine self, you're not the ego. You're willing to basically abandon the ego for your dream. And so, one of the things that a lot of success people will tell you is that in order to succeed and in order to really go for what you want, you have to ask yourself, am I willing to die for it? Right? And it's not dying like in a physical sense, but the question is, am I willing to give up my ego, this protective mechanism, and really let go of the person I've been to become the person that I want to be? And that's really the whole individuation. And I think that anything that you want, whether it's just starting a little business or making more money or going for another career, that whole process of desire, of wanting that, and using this work to free your mind, it really doesn't matter if you win or lose, because what you're really going to gain is what really get a taste of who you really are. And I think for all the success we've had, Rob, I feel like I love you and I love having this relationship and I love our success. But what I really love is that I got to know what I'm made of, who I really am on a deep level, and what I'm really capable of. And I'm not even done. We're not done yet. And that's really the exciting part, is that I broke out of that shell of little Debbie from New Jersey and became someone else. And it's almost like undefinable, that where I feel like I don't have those edges anymore of, oh, that's not me, or this is not me. I mean, I bump up against them every time we go to another level, but it really is this beautiful journey. Just the journey alone is really, to get what you want, is really a journey of self-discovery, not a journey of collecting a lot of awards or getting a lot of money. Those things are great. But having that sense of who you are and a direct experience of that potential is so, so amazing. How was your experience with that?
Well, that's hard to top. I would just say ditto.
Ditto.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So we really hope you inspired today to go for something maybe that your imposter syndrome was holding you back from. Again, listen to this again and think about relationships. Where have you gone on a date where you feel like, this person's too good looking for me? A lot of my clients will tell me, oh, he's out of my league. This is the guy I really wanted to go for, but he's out of my league. And it's like, no, you go for that. And you raise the bar for yourself. And that's really where we have to start thinking. I think raising our own bar, not waiting for the bar to be raised for us, is that we get to create where our limit is in our life. That the external world will only reflect back the limits that we believe we have, not the opposite, that the world is imposing limits on us. It's our control. And we invite you also to really do some of the shadow work that we do. We're doing some workshops this year. In January, we're doing a creative money breakthrough workshop.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be really fantastic. We're going to work on the money shadow there. If you're interested, let us know. And we want you to join us on our Creative Love community Facebook group to let us know what you think about this show. And I have a special invitation to the women out there that are inspired by living their purpose and would like to go on a journey of that individuation, is that this year we're going to introduce a new program called Evolve. It's a women's leadership program. What we're going to do is take you through my version of the hero's journey, which is much different than Joseph Campbell's and slaying dragons, and we're not killing any gremlins or clearing or healing anything. We're actually going to go on a self-discovery to find the treasure within us and to bring forth within us the divine woman that is dormant inside most of us, and that we're still playing the little girl in the world, and that we're falling into that imposter syndrome, and you're finding who you really are. And this isn't about shining up the ego and saying I'm good enough. This is about really having a direct experience of your potential and your creativity and your intuition, and having a direct, clear vision and clear line to the power that you have within you. And it's really an amazing journey. It's a combination of online and offline. We're going to be traveling the world. We're going to be going to Lisbon, Portugal in May next year. We're going to do a training in LA. We're doing a training in New York City. We're doing a spiritual retreat in August in Santa Fe. And then at the end of the year, in October, we're doing another money event in Geneva, Switzerland. So we'll be on the road a lot, getting to know you. If you would like to meet us in person, please reach out and find out more about us. And we have an opportunity, if you would like a consult as to what program would work for you, you can sign up for that as well. We really enjoy doing this podcast, and we hope you enjoy it as well. How about you, Rob? Anything else to add?
Well, I think, these topics are really fun to talk about and interesting. So we'll keep on doing them. Yes.
And let us know what else you'd like us to discuss. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Have a great day.
See you soon.
You've been listening to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. For more information, visit us on our website at creativelove.com.